welcome to We Never Met, the podcast where I have interesting strangers on every single week. Today we have
Shirley Kienitz.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
You just came on in, and so when did you? Because you are the owner of Wolfbait B-girls.
That's right.
How long have you been? How long has it been? It's in Logan Square, correct?
It's in Logan Square on the roundabout, and we've been in that same location for nearly 14 years.
Nice. That's 14 years. Does it feel like 14 years?
Some days it feels longer. Some days it feels like a real wild week, you know?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So were you in a spot before that, or was that the first spot the store was at?
That's the first spot and only spot for Wolfbait B-girls.
Wow. And so when you initially started when you had the concept of the idea, when did that start? How much earlier was that?
Well, I also have a business partner, Miss Jenny Stadler, and we were both hawking our wares through different pop-ups and selling them to independent boutiques like Penelope's here in Wicker Park, the first boutique to carry my line.
Oh, nice.
Back in 2003. And we met through that kind of collective atmosphere of makers trying to get together and create a venue where we could showcase what we were doing.
Yeah.
At that time, most of what boutiques were buying were very name brand oriented. So they weren't very interested in experimenting with up and comers.
Sure.
Since then, the shop small and independent artisan and everything that's happened on the internet with social media has completely changed that landscape.
Yeah.
But it started just as a need for a space to create a workshop and then a place to sell, a venue.
Yeah. What do you think the shift was in sort of that, where it was really hard to get your stuff in stores at the beginning, and then there's a sort of what do you think that shift was in people that kind of gravitated more towards small businesses and were more interested in more unique sort of one-off things that they can only get, once?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's been a long, slow shift, and it's hard to see the parallels of that culture with where we are politically right now. But I think that more and more people are aware of the dangers of fast fashion now.
Yeah.
It's similar to the slow food, organic food movement.
Yeah, exactly.
And that the more educated people are, the more educated their choices, right? It wasn't really, and perhaps because of the available information now with the internet and social media, people weren't really conscious of where their clothes were coming from or who might be harmed in the making of those goods.
Right.
I think people are a lot more educated about those aspects of their consumerism today.
Yeah.
And I think also as the global economy booms and we're all connected through the internet, the idea of individuality has changed.
Yeah.
And the more that you can find a way to represent yourself that is truly unique and not something that's available across the country in every Target changes. You
can tell. You can see those,
Yeah.
That's from
it's very different. Or a lot of what we sell are gifts. We have complimentary gift wrapping, and we wrap a large portion of what we sell.
Yeah.
And when you're trying to show someone else that you care about them, it's very hard to do it in a mass produced. Yeah. They're going to see it in the clearance bin a week later when they're buying their groceries, So there's a kind of thoughtfulness that goes into it. And I like to think a kind of magic, someone's really pouring themselves into what they make. And at Wolfbait, the artist often gets a time to connect directly with the customer. And I think that is beneficial for both parts.
Yeah, definitely. And so what got you initially into, before the even store started, designing clothes and sort of in that sphere? Were you always a designer at heart, you think?
Well, I always made my own clothes. My mom taught me how to sew.
How young were you?
She would make something for me and I would make it for my doll. So it was very
really
young.
Cool.
Yeah.
The chain continues. Yeah.
My mom was very into the total look. Fashion was very much a big part of her life. And so it was a big part of mine because we were close.
Right.
And we still are. And I made stuff for myself just out of an urge to be creative. There were sewing machines at my house that was available to me. And when I was young, there was other things I wanted to do, but a lot of wise people in my life told me that this is what I would end up doing. And I tried a lot of other things before I proved them right.
Right.
But I actually went to fashion school on accident. I had been traveling and backpacking and living in a hostel in Amsterdam where I met a young lady who had a beach house in California. like traveled across the country.
Sounds like a movie, like a movie
Wanderlust
sequence.
was like the main compass, I guess, of my early years. But I fell in love with my now husband, Mr. Jeremy Kienitz.
Yeah.
And he was a neighbor in California. And I needed a reason to stay in California besides just a boy.
Yeah, because who wants to say that? You know?
That wasn't how I was living. So I was actually looking through the Yellow Pages because we're talking like 2000s, right? We didn't even have computers in our apartments, especially us maybe income challenged young people.
Yeah.
And I saw an advertisement for a scholarship to the Fashion Institute of Design and Merchandising in San Francisco.
Wow.
And in that backpack I had been living out of, I did have a lot of stuff that I had made.
Sure.
So I took that and went to Kinko's, if anybody remembers Kinko's.
Yeah, I used to go to those.
Created like a slapdash portfolio of my self-made creations. And I won that scholarship to fit them and went to fashion school kind of on accident.
Yeah, that's a really serendipitous sort of way to get there.
Yeah.
So then when you went to fashion school and did all that, did that sort of solidify the fact that you wanted to be a designer, or were there points of like, I don't know if I want to do this? Or
the whole time I was in fashion school, I really wanted to work for somebody else. And I was one of the only people in my cohort that was like, I was like, just someone give me a job where I can be creative. Just make it so I can go every day and be creative and not really be responsible for anything.
Right.
Because of the kind of lifestyle I had, I wasn't like seeking excessive amounts of responsibility.
right. Or managing other people.
Yeah, like none of that. Yeah. But as soon as I finished school, I moved to Chicago with my now husband and started my collection and started hawking it wherever I could at pop-ups and other things like that. It wasn't my intention really to be an entrepreneur at that time. But when you look, like hindsight, I had started my own little day camp for kids as a teenager. I had, I had all sorts of like little side gigs that I was always like a hustler.
You were hustling, yeah.
But most of it just came out of necessity.
Sure.
And by being slightly unusual. So it was hard for me to follow maybe what is a more traditional path. It just wasn't as clear to me as it is to some people. Yeah. So I don't feel like I sought out an unusual path. I just happened to be unusual. So it was my path.
That's just how it worked.
Yeah.
So then when you started the store, were you nervous at all, since you sort of had that past of like, I don't know if I want to manage people or have responsibility and stuff?
There was a lot of doubts at that time because I was kind of like betting on money I didn't have. And it was easier though because I didn't have anything to lose either.
Sure.
Now it's harder for me to take risks because I have 2 young children. I have a mortgage payment.
It's more than just you know? Yeah.
It's a little bit different.
More complicated.
But I recently went through, like we all do throughout our lives, a change of perspective. I think when I first became a mother, I was really trying to hang on to what was working for me and make sure I didn't F it up.
Yeah.
But now that I've become more comfortable in that role in my life, I feel ready to take risks again.
Sure.
And now instead of thinking like, I don't want to deteriorate any of the success that Wolfbait has made, not only for me, but for the 300 plus makers that we represent that now count on that as part of their livelihood. Talk about dependency. There's a lot of interrelated stuff going on there. But now I feel like I've been lucky enough to have this opportunity to experience some success. And now I really want to push it and do everything that I find important in life through this outlet, as opposed to trying keeping it safe and separate. Now I really want to push it into other things I'm interested, like community organization and stuff like that.
Yeah, like that, because that's important too. And you guys do events as well.
We do a lot of events.
Yeah.
We do a lot of we like to call it community-centered commerce. Right. So like everything we're doing is about bringing people together and giving back in like a social give back kind of platform way.
Yeah. And what's interesting, I talked to some other entrepreneurs and like owners of stores, like Jeff Hohen, who actually recommended you to be on the podcast.
Oh,
he
interesting.
has a store up in Milwaukee, called Beard MKE. And I had him on the podcast, and he was one of the people that told me to have you on, because your store was a big inspiration for him starting a store up there as well.
And that's the perfect example of collaborate, don't compete.
Yeah.
Because instead of being like upset that someone else is interested in doing something in the same venue that we're doing, you know, kind of supporting local artists, we saw it as a great opportunity for our artists to get into a shop in Milwaukee. Yeah. You know, we were like, yes, we have people that would be great for what you're doing. Yeah, and the better they do, the better we do. The better we're all promoting this kind of lifestyle, this kind of conscientious consumerism, the better it is for artists throughout Chicago and Milwaukee, throughout the country, just the way that we value people as artisans and things that have been created as opposed to just produced.
Right. Yeah. So, and I was asking him, and I asked Steph Davies, who owns the Wax Wing up there as well.
Mm-hmm. I love the Wax Wing. Yeah. Both great shops.
Yeah. And I asked him sort of like how they curate, because you only have like a certain amount of space, obviously. So you have to say no to somebody. Like, I'm sure there's a lot of people that are like, I want to be in that. And you're like, oh.
Well, we have some guidelines, like most referring to quality.
Sure.
And then the line between shopper and seller at Wolfbait is very blurred. So we explain to hopefuls that you have to exceed the average DIYer's capabilities or access to materials. So most of the people that are shopping there are also creative individuals.
Right.
You have to offer them something that's beyond what they
themselves.
Right. We don't want to hear, I could make that all day, you know?
Just looking at pointing at everything.
Yeah. There is a meme that I really like, though, that's like, why would I pay $10 for this when I could make it with $100 worth of craft supplies, you know? Because like there is some effort and involved.
For sure.
But I'm very happy for those people and the successes that they found in Milwaukee.
Yeah.
Very much.
That's so funny you bring that up, because I try to make stuff instead of like just buy my fiance gifts. I tried to make candles one year. Oh my gosh, it costs so much money just to make candles.
Especially if you only do it one time.
Yeah, exactly.
We offer a lot of great workshops at Wolfbait, especially leading up to the holidays, to encourage people to make their own gifts.
Maybe I'll go to
so
one
we
of
have
those.
like candle making classes. Yeah. You can make 1 or 2 candles within the 2-hour format.
Yeah.
We have an earring making workshop, air plant holder making, which is like some wire work. It's really cool.
Yeah, that is cool.
We also have like some New Year's workshop set up that are going to be like an aura cleanser, and it's like an aromatherapy and crystal concoction that you create yourself.
Yeah.
And then we also have an astrologist that's going to do birth charts there as well.
You guys cover like a gamut of stuff.
Really, we're up for anything. Yeah. And like you were asking before about like how we decide.
Yeah.
Besides those restrictions about being beyond what our customer is capable of.
Because it's mostly Chicago, or almost all, right? Chicago makers in your store?
Mm-hmm. And Chicago-based fair trade.
Yeah.
Is not only that it has to exceed the customer's capabilities, but it's also customer curated. So the way our consignment contract is set up, you have a certain amount of time to sell your item at the price that you choose. But then after that, if it doesn't sell, you got to mark it down. If it still doesn't sell, you got to pick it up. So like we can try things that maybe aren't my taste.
Yeah.
And they're successful because it's customer curated. The customer decides what they want to see. You know,
I never would have thought of that.
Yeah, and it changes with the neighborhood and trends. A lot of people are really popular at the onset, but because we have such a reliable returning customer, everybody who wanted it bought it.
Already got it. Yeah.
So and it's time to do something new. Yeah. But it keeps you innovative.
Yeah.
And it's also like realistic because it is commerce.
Sure.
And fashion is trend based.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I guess from the start till now, since it's been open for over 10 years, what things did you not sort of see in the entrepreneurial world, or like, you know, challenges that came up when you got started that you wish you would have known? And having done them now, was there any like really hard things for you that you didn't even see coming? As far as like,
there were certainly a lot of challenges, a lot of like trial by fire, but I'm nothing if I'm not ambitious. So I think that those kept me engaged. And if it had been smooth sailing, maybe I would have lost interest.
Bored.
Yeah. I also this past year did the 10,000 Small Businesses program that the Goldman Sachs Scholarship puts out through Harold Washington College. It's like a continuing education program for people who've owned their business for at least 5 years. Okay. And like they have some silly slogans that are like, it's getting a master's in your business. You
could do their commercials.
I could. Hey, anyone. It was great for me, being that I went to a fashion school, I went to a trade school, I got an Associate of Arts degree in pattern making, like very specific to a skill set that I used to create clothes. All the stuff I learned in a business way was like from my accountant, who's been very generous with her knowledge, or from like friends or from experience. And this gave me an opportunity to really explore my business as a businesswoman as opposed to an artist who's in business. The first half of the class was just mourning my naivety. It was like so painful to know that I couldn't go back to pretending like I didn't know.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep. Yeah.
But then after that, there was a real empowering part of knowing that, like I said, I had that shift in mentality of just trying to keep it safe and secure for everyone who is participating, to being like, hey, this is a real platform that a lot of people participate in. Yeah. And we should be pushing it. We should push it until it explodes and self-destructs. We shouldn't like play it safe. Yeah. I was like, what happened to you, Shirley? You know?
Come on.
Yeah. And then I got real excited. And now we're like deep in the implementation process of some of those things that I learned. Wow. And maybe I had been learning them slowly through those 14 years, like you were referencing, but it was really the acknowledgement and the urging of the business advisors and my classmates, and they just kind of gave me the confidence to do some of the things that maybe just seemed like far-fetched ideas, and I was lucky that I had made it.
What were some of those?
One of the things we're doing is we're building a website right now that we're hoping to soft launch for holidays. It's going to be at the wolfbaitchicago.com address that our current informational website is, but it's going to be the first time that we really have e-commerce. But you're not going to be shopping from Wolfbait. It's a UX directory, so all of our artists will be able to log in and list their products, and when you purchase it directly from the maker. It's another way to like lift up the micro businesses that we represent. There's also going to be all sorts of like community building aspects available to them when they log in, like a list of other pop-ups they can participate in, and they'll get feedback on the audience of fairs that they've already participated in, like the Wi-Fi here sucks, or this audience doesn't spend, or like, so they can better choose where they spend their time trying to sell their goods. It'll also have a list of sister stores like Beard and Wax Wings saying, hey, have you reached out with your products to them? They sell local stuff. They sell handmade stuff, you know? So really trying to be more of a resource for our makers than just a venue. That's something that's important to me. I feel like I've been so lucky to lead the life that I have. I want other people to be able to exist and thrive as makers. And it's not an easy road. So anything I can do to kind of pave the way. And another big thing that we're doing that I don't think I would have done if I hadn't done that class is we are answering an RFP from the Chicago Cultural Center currently. And they're looking for some sort of local artist-based consignment commerce.
RFP?
It's a request for proposal. So they reached out looking for...
I need to take this class, clearly.
I didn't know what it was before the class. I joke all the time that I'm like, this would be like, I'd be like intimidating and done.
I don't know what that is.
But because of just even the lingo, or even interacting, so there's about 30 people per cohort in that class. And they're of all ages and all industries. So there was like hardcore machinists from Woodstock, and you know, like the business that woman run was mind-boggling to me to understand that those parts are still manufactured. It appealed to me because it was still like a creative process of manufacturing, and it was still local, made in America, all that stuff that matters to me. But there was like florists and non-for-profits that specialized in diversity headhunting and stuff that. So really interesting and inspiring people to surround yourself with. And the insights they had in your business that maybe had become kind of tunnel vision for you was like a great awakening. So it also gave me the confidence to pursue this RFP. Now there's several people up for this bid, so it's definitely not a sure deal, but we're hoping to make it into a pop-up space for our makers. So it would be like kind of a themed per weekend fair for them, right? Like a pop-up space where they would sell their own goods directly to the customer, like another opportunity for them to reach a new market. And it would be in the Chicago Cultural Center downtown, which gets 800,000 to 900,000 visitors a year. A lot of them tourists. It'd be a great way to tie it into the website too, because travelers won't have the opportunity to be repeat customers. But now that we're building out this new innovative web platform for our artists to be able, you know, it's hard for a maker to stand out online as one maker,
and especially
even on Instagram, even any of that.
It just costs money.
It does.
Yeah.
It does. And you're just one person, and maybe you only make one product, you know?
Yeah.
But if you group them together, like I joke that it's like unionizing the gig economy.
Yeah.
We're trying to get all these people that are doing these little special things together into a place where we're kind of more powerful as a group.
Right. Yeah. Do you think that was an issue though for you, where you got to a point where things were working really well and it was almost dangerous because you just kept doing the same thing? You know what I mean? You talked about like tunnel vision sort of thing.
Yeah. Or like, I think that it's kind of fear based too. Like if you come from a place of like we did, like very like bootstrap, like we started our business like pre-crowdsourcing. You know what I mean? We were like, I was waiting tables, saving my tips, like pay, you know, like when you do it that way, it does create like a little bit of fear. Like you've put a lot of yourself into this thing, a lot of like time and energy and work, you know what I mean? And you don't want to lose it.
Right.
You know? Like on the first day of class, I remember they were talking about like exit strategies and risk versus reward and stuff like that. And I'm like, I feel like I'm really lucky that I got to where I am, and I don't want to mess it up, you know?
Like,
and not even that it's like particularly profitable, just that I'm proud of it.
Right. Yeah, it's like you're afraid to make like a sort of sidestep. Like, what if you lose all your customers? What if they don't think this is cool? What if no one comes back?
Or like, what if I risk this venue that is beneficial for these 300 makers in order to try to do something bigger downtown, where maybe those people don't adhere to the kind of principles that we feel our community does?
Yeah. Yeah. It's tough.
Or are you taking a big risk to, educate people about how they can get real quality, interesting, and unique items in this socially conscious way?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, so I'm interested as well, though, to go back to you backpacking and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So how did you get to, what were you doing before you started backpacking and like living in a hostel over there?
Well, I first attempted college at Marymount Manhattan in New York City.
Are you from New York or?
Nope, I am a pilot's daughter.
Okay.
So there was quite a bit of moving around.
Okay.
And that's how I also got to do that adventuresome traveling. Back in the 90s when I was young, companion travel for relatives and friends of people who worked in air travel.
Yeah.
It was like a carbon copy credit card receipt. I don't know if you remember what those are like the old pizza man, like.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So it was like that, but I got to write my destination in it and like sign my name to it and then like take it to a booth and fly somewhere.
Yeah. My mom worked for airlines and we used to do that all the time.
Yeah. So that's
free,
how it used to be.
Yeah.
Sadly, another casualty of 9/11. They couldn't regulate that, and it was removed from opportunities for all those other people that are growing up in pilots' households now.
Yep.
But for us, we reaped the benefits.
Yeah.
And I did. I fully did. I fully traveled as much as I possibly could with those companion passes.
Where'd you all go?
Well, I met a young woman named Noemi Lamassin, who's still a dear friend of mine. She's a social worker in New York City. But she's from France. And we dropped out of college together and went to France, to where her parents had a little villa. And then we got a Eurorail pass. And back in the day, it was like $150 a month. And you could get on the train in Europe as many times as you wanted, right?
Yeah, it's still pretty cheap. I went in 2012, and it was still relatively cheep too, right?
It is. Yeah. It is. Like some of those things seem inaccessible. Right. Like the life of a maker, but it's not. They need us to tell them that you can do this and you can have the traditional life on the side, you know? It's all possible. But yeah, I went with Noemi to France. Then we traveled around on those Eurorail passes and flew to like Ireland and Amsterdam and got like jobs that they would give us without visas, like changing sheets in hostels and stuff like that.
Did you make it work?
We made it work. Yeah. We made it work for a long time. She went back a little bit before I did. I remember staying at the Heathrow airport like a year and some later, just waiting to get on a standby flight because they were booked, you know? And I was just like living off the one bagel that I bought with the last bit of money I had, like waiting to get back to the States. Like, oh man, really pushed it to the limit this time.
I hope I make it back.
Yeah.
I have nothing left.
But a fellow traveler that I had met, had been living in this house in Pacifica, south of San Francisco. Okay. And she was like, my roommate's moving out. I know you're not doing anything serious. Come and stay there, you know? Yeah. And I did.
How long were you there for?
In California? Only a little over 2 years, not very long. I didn't take to California.
I neither. I lived there for 6 months and I
yeah, isn't that interesting?
Didn't like it. Yeah.
There's no seasons. I felt like it was Groundhog's Day.
Yeah, I had the same critique.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, it's 85 or 90 again today.
Oh, were you in Southern California?
Yeah.
Yeah.
With no clouds in the sky. I feel like I didn't even go to sleep. I just woke up and it was the same day.
It's odd, especially for like people who are like born and raised Midwesterners. Like I spent most of my life in like Illinois and Michigan and like Midwestern region.
Me too, Wisconsin. So,
yeah. I missed the seasons a lot. I also felt like the same experience I had in New York, I had in San Francisco, and that was the predominant feeling that you had to be native. Do you know what I mean? And I don't feel like Chicago's like that. I mean, Chicago assumes that everyone here's from Ohio. Like nobody's like, oh, you weren't like born and raised here, then you're not really a Chicago. No, everyone's like, oh, you've lived here for a winter, then you're a Chicagoan. Yeah, you made it. Yeah. I like that welcoming Midwestern atmosphere. I totally prefer it.
Yeah. And in LA too, I was in LA, which was probably the worst out of all of them as far as that. It's like, they don't want anyone else there. They don't want you to come there. You know, they're like, we have enough people, don't come here. Like that's
so unfriendly.
Yeah. They don't want to talk to you. They don't want you to be a part of it. You know? So I had a similar experience and I left within like 6 months. Yeah.
I didn't even walk at graduation. The day of my last class, I left. So I was like, I'm done.
I'm not coming back.
Get me out of here. Yeah.
And then from there, you moved to where?
To Chicago. It was very romantic. My husband's very romantic. Yeah. I was like telling him I was dying to come back to Chicago. My parents were living here. I hadn't seen them in years because I'd been traveling and doing all this crazy stuff. And I mean, it's so funny and it really makes me feel old when I'm always like, no, this is before the internet. Like a lot of my stories are like, internet was not prevalent at this time. But, finding an apartment long distance when that wasn't a possibility online was like a real crazy thing.
That?
Yeah.
I don't even know.
He like called old friends in Indiana where his parents live to like have them suss up. Well, anyway, he got us an apartment.
Have you heard the news? Yeah. Is there anything?
Did you find a place? A place that one of his acquaintances had previously rented was up for rent. Okay. And he gave me like a dozen roses and the deposit receipt. Okay. Like, okay, I got us a place in Chicago. Oh, and nice. we rented like a Hornet U-Haul, the little yellow guy. Brought like my sewing machine, left behind my roller skates. They've since been replaced.
Really? But, couldn't fit those in?
We joke all the time that we don't have anything that we moved here.
Really?
No, I mean, what we chose to bring at like 22 years old,
True. Fair enough. Yeah. I don't really have a lot of stuff from back then either.
Yeah. I mean, it's getting to be 20 years ago. I mean, that's a long time to hang on to. Yeah. And maybe that stuff is like better off retired.
I mean, you probably could sell it for a lot of money now. Some cool rollerblades or something.
Yeah. But
so you moved back here and
I moved back here.
Basically started from scratch?
I did. I worked in the service industry for a long time. I worked at like Toast and the Map Room. And all during that time, I was building my collection. I was selling at Penelope's. Yeah. I was like hustling. We were answering ads that used to be in New City when it was a free paper. And you would take out ads for maker meetups. And then we'd all meet at like the art gallery that's on North Avenue next to Tattoo. And
then what would you do? Just hang out?
You'd bring your stuff. You'd be like, this is what I make. This is what you make. Where are you selling it? How do you sell it? Like,
okay, yeah.
What are we doing? There's no internet.
This is how we network now.
It was like real, Jurassic nowadays, it seems, right?
Yeah. So from that point, when you got Penelope's, was there a point that your stuff got into more and more stores and you kind of saw like a traction?
There was like a turning of the tides when I met my business partner, Jenny Stadler. She was like, you're ambitious and you're gonna get it, and let's get it together. I'm also gonna get it. You know what I mean? And we like got in cahoots, and from there it like happened really fast. Before we opened our shop, when I was selling in Penelope's, I was lucky enough to get spotted by Women's Wear Daily, which is like a big industry magazine for fashion designers. I didn't go that industry route, like mass production, New York Fashion Week, because it just doesn't appeal to my sensibilities as far as like what my priorities are as a person. But it was still a great opportunity to get like press, and also like legitimized me as someone who was like fashion notable.
Yeah, sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
So I think without that catalyst, I don't know if I would have had the confidence to take the risks I did. Yeah. But it gave me like a little bit of notoriety to take a step. Even if it was off that path, it was still a step.
Did they do a feature on you? Or
it was like Bruiser cruises into the spotlight. And then like all these pictures of my first collection, which was urban piracy because people were stealing music.
So then you got in that magazine. Was there a lot of, did you hear from a lot of people from that, like that press? Were people impressed? Did people like your collection and stuff?
Yes, but I had production issues. You know, I was making it. You know, how much stuff can I make?
Yeah.
And then there's a lot of complications if you're trying to be a fashion designer and someone's buying your stuff wholesale. They want it like seasons in advance. And then if they can't sell it, you have to buy it back from them. Jeez. And like so many industries, it's not in the maker's favor.
Sure. Yeah, they're trying to make money. They don't care about you, really.
They don't really care about you. And you're competing with people who are making things for like a nickel a piece, like in terrible conditions in Bangladesh. Yeah. You know, that was happening then. That didn't just start happening.
Yeah.
So there was no way I could compete with the production value of fast fashion. I couldn't compete with the groups that I was being kind of like grouped with, you know?
Sure.
Like I couldn't compete with people who were manufacturing overseas, which was something that didn't interest me. And my customer wasn't the kind of person that was looking for like really high-end couture, like Gucci. Like we were service industry people. I mean,
yeah.
I always wanted to have a store that I could afford to shop in. I wasn't looking to like class climb through art.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
So when you say fast fashion, I'm not in that industry. So are people like that make really fancy clothes like you see on a runway? Are they like outsourcing their sometimes to like?
What's interesting is a lot of the stuff that's made on a runway for thousands of dollars is made in the same place as Forever 21 stuff. That's like $8
really?
a hoodie.
See, I didn't know that.
There's only so many factories making stuff.
Yeah, I thought they made it for some reason. I don't know.
In real couture houses, sure.
Yeah.
But less and less.
Yeah.
You know,
'cause it's not like in their interest or something. They just don't care.
There's just not a lot of people that still have that skill, right? Like how many people are apprenticing to be couture seamstresses. And still, as the maker of a product, you were never the one who was best paid. Just like so many corporate entities that you may be more familiar with, there's somebody sitting on top getting most of the money.
Oh, yeah.
And then there's all the other people that are doing the work.
that are getting paid almost nothing.
Yeah.
Comparatively. Yeah.
So like bringing the industry back to where it's like maker led, to where it's like the person who made it that sells it to you.
Yeah.
I think as important as it is for the economics, like we were just talking about, I think it's also very important for people to connect in person.
Yeah.
To meet someone that made you something.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's just different. I think there's magic to it. And I think it's something that has made people lonely, that our stuff is so separate from the people who made it. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. And from those people that have like just like things in your store, do you know them pretty much?
Yeah. All? Because most people deliver in person, right?
Oh, so sure, yeah.
You're just like interacting with them in the store. Actually, the people part of the project is my favorite part.
Yeah, I bet.
And
cool.
also the way that it changes how you see something. We've all had that where you meet someone, you think they're like hot, and then you get to know them and they're like not. Or the opposite,
Tons
right?
of people,
right?
Yeah.
The same is true for the products, you know?
Yeah.
Maybe I'm not that into it when I see this, just see it.
Right.
But then I meet the person who made it, I hear a little bit more of the story, and then I'm like, wow, now I'm real into what you're making.
That's really cool, yeah.
Or just the opposite. Somebody comes in and is like, well, let's slap this together because, you know, whatever, trends.
Trying to make
And then
trends.
I'm like, you know, I'm definitely not getting one of those. I'm much less interested. You are not subscribing to the magic that I do.
Yeah.
But yeah, it depends, like person to person and meeting the people. Even today, we had a Meet the Maker Trunk Show, which we host all the time. And we have the different people that we represent in the store come in and be there in person with an extended amount of stuff, more than we can fit in our tiny space on the regular.
Sure. Yeah.
And they get to see customer reactions to what they make, which helps them better shape their products and offerings and prices.
Right.
And the customer really enjoys seeing that there's a real person that created this stuff.
Yeah.
They like to see that this person has things in common with them that is different than maybe they expected sometimes.
Right. Yeah, I always look at things, you know, that are like handcrafted and in stores like that. And I'm like, people can make this? You know, like sometimes it's so far from my sensibility of like ability to even like comprehend how to do that, you know, but it's there. And I'm like, how does someone, another person just do that.
And that's where the workshops come in. We call it skill sharing.
Yeah.
So another thing that's about collaborating over competing is many of our makers are interested in teaching people the same skills that they're like profiting from. It's not like a secret thing.
Did you in the corner in the dark
to know how to make a candle? You know what I mean?
Yes, it is. It's hard.
But also when you learn how, like you were saying, you realize the effort that went in, and then maybe next time you see a handmade candle, you're not like upset about the $20 price tag.
You look over, oh, that's really expensive.
You're like, oh, I get it because I tried it and I know.
Yeah.
Or like I'm aware of the different materials that went into it, or they're buying like soy that's sustainably farmed by someone they know in Missouri.
Right.
This is true for Rocket Relics, one of the candle makers herself. So like once you know the whole story and the effort she puts into using upcycled vessels to make it environmentally friendly, like it's really a conscious process. And I think it goes back to this mindfulness that everyone's trying to, know where their food comes from, know where their money goes when they spend it. Like a lot of people are unconsciously supporting politics they don't believe in because they're uneducated about the other resources they're using.
Yeah. I think it's becoming more knowledgeable of what you're doing. Our cat, this is a tangent, but our cat has herpes, which is not like human herpes, just to clarify. It's like a respiratory thing. So she has like trouble breathing sometimes, and she gets like boogers and stuff like that. It's like I don't know where she went, but it's common in like shelters because they're all close together and it spreads through the water and stuff. But I spent probably 5 hours researching air filter things.
Purifiers, yeah.
And because apparently a lot of them have like this ozone thing where they excrete like ozone particles into your house, which can like make it like damage your lungs.
Yeah.
And they're selling these just like out to people.
People for a long time have believed that like the government or the FDA or like different associations, whether they be non-for-profits or whatever, that like there's enough of them to protect them.
Yeah.
But
like, it's fine.
It's not really true. I mean, it's a cumbersome task to try and educate yourself about every decision you have to make as a modern human. You can't do it. But take heed when you do hear, cite their sources. There's rumors out there too, but you kind of got to pick a couple battles and really fight for them,
Yeah. But it was crazy. It was like, there's probably like 5 or 6 I was looking at, and I like was looking at all these reviews and stuff, and they're like, oh, this one, emits ozone. Oh, cool. Yeah, that's exactly what I want to purify my air, put more into the air and damage my lungs.
100%.
Cool.
They were talking about that during the candle workshop again, because we sell soy candles because so many candles are actually made with carcinogens.
Right. When
like you're like, ooh, I need to relax. Let me light this candle that's going to give me cancer. Like how relaxing is that?
I open every single window when I burn candles because it's so terrible. It's pretty crazy. So with your store, are there any sort of like makers that have come forth towards you recently that you're really excited about? Like any new stuff you've gotten in that, even for the holidays coming up?
I'm always really excited to meet new makers, and I love how thrilled they are with that first several sales.
Yeah.
It's exciting when somebody isn't already having success on their own online or at pop-ups, and it's the first time that they're really reaching out to the customer. I think that's always really exciting. I think it's also exciting, the skill sharing, the makers that step up and want to teach other people how to make stuff. I think that's a really important part of what we do. But we have new stuff every day.
Really?
A new artist every week.
That's really cool.
And people are rotating in and out. A lot of them are hobbyists, so they created something, maybe a collection of things, and they try and sell it. Yeah, and like maybe it sells, maybe it doesn't. A lot of them realize like, wow, I didn't get rich from making this thing. I don't know if I'm going to still do it. Yeah. There's different reactions to having your product be public. It's kind of a brave thing to do.
It is, especially with art and stuff, you're in something you're crafting and taking time out of your day that you're really passionate about, and you're just putting it out there and hoping that someone likes it.
Yeah. And then we get to hear all those critiques like in real time in the store,
Yeah, sure.
So
and sometimes they're there to hear them too.
Yeah.
Do customers, when they walk through and there are makers there, do they like say negative stuff? Because I would never want to. I would be so nervous to say anything bad.
A lot of people don't realize that it is the place that it is upon arriving.
Okay.
A lot of people do, but a lot of people don't. I've definitely had my designs like mocked by customers.
While you're there?
While I'm there. Well, they don't know that I made it. Do you know what I mean?
Do you say anything or just kind of like...
Lots of times I'll be like, oh, I made that. I'm not above making people uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But my collection is always very playful. And like the one piece that I'm really thinking of, I bought this quilted like pot holder fabric that had pictures of corn stalks on it. Mm-hmm. And I made little mini skirts that I called the stalker. And people were like, this is a pot holder. Like people were like, what the? I love it. I still wear it to this day, but that definitely got like a lot of mixed reviews, you know?
Yeah, sure.
Or, you know, because there's a lot to do with body image with what I sell as well. There's a lot of people that will criticize the garment, but really themselves. You know, like this would look terrible on me, or who does this fit, or, you know, that kind of thing. And we always encourage people to try out our very flattering fitting room. And we do offer custom alterations on stuff that I make there in the store.
Oh, cool.
And if I still have fabric left, I've often done custom cut. So if you're smaller or bigger or taller or longer or something than the off the rack size I've provided, and I still have fabric available, I'll like adjust my pattern to suit you.
Oh, that's cool.
Because I really want to be inclusive.
Yeah, right.
And again, the magic of connecting directly with someone who cares about what you're doing and putting your life into, it matters. And you want them to feel like anyone can participate in that.
Especially if they're coming in and they're interested, and that's the only thing that's like deterring them from it, that it just won't fit them, you know, or something.
Plus, I'm a lady.
Yeah.
I'm not only a lady, I'm a mom. Yeah. So, I mean, mom bod is for real. Like, I want to know that there's going to be something there that's going to like do me a favor.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
I don't know, actually. I don't know why I agree. I am not a mother.
Well, I'm sure there's people out there that understand what I'm talking about. Yeah, and that's like a big goal of Bruiser now, is to make sure that it's like making me better than I am without it.
Yeah, that's the new goal.
Yeah.
Well, okay. So when is the website sort of transitioning to the point where there's going to be makers on it? Is that close into the future?
We were really hoping to do a soft launch for holiday, like a shop in store online, but we're not there yet. Okay. The holidays are fast approaching. Yeah, so really stay tuned. You know. Yeah. It's still going to be wolfbaitchicago.com.
Okay.
We're most active right now on our Instagram, which is at Wolfbait Chicago. We have a highlight that is upcoming events, and it'll show you a lot of our workshops and trunk shows, meet the maker events.
Yeah.
We also do pop-up kind of crafting hours at Sip of Hope. It's a not-for-profit coffee shop. Yeah. So we have one scheduled for December 10th, and it's like a card making. So you can reach out to maybe somebody you love or want to show appreciation to, or maybe an apology to somebody maybe you were not so nice to. But all good things to do around the holidays, no matter how you celebrate. And so we'll have lots of free supplies for everyone to share and get creative. It's totally free to participate. Yeah. And it's from 5 to 7 on December 10th. We also have more workshops coming up. We have a vintage royalty earring making class on December 5th. We have Meet the Maker trunk shows. I know on December 18th, we have Into the Pines. She also teaches our air plant making workshop, but she makes a lot of beautiful jewelry, and she'll be there selling her goods as well. And that's all available on that highlight reel on Instagram. Cool. We also post a lot of what's incoming, you know, new artists all the time on our Instagram. And once we get the website launched, it will contain all that information in an event calendar where you can register online and stuff like that.
Awesome. Yeah, and you said, what are your hours again at the store?
We're open Monday through Saturday from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. and Sunday from 10 to 4.
Nice. Yeah. So pretty much every day of the week, and you can stop in there. The holidays are fast approaching.
Yes.
So get on that. I usually am on top of it, and I have not started holiday shopping.
Well, even if you wait till the last minute, we have complimentary gift wrapping. You can stick it right under the tree, under the menorah, whatever you need to do.
Yeah. And my last question is, do you have a lot of people from Logan Square that are creators that are in your shop?
We do have a lot of people from Logan Square, but really we reach all neighborhoods in the city.
That's cool.
And the outskirts. I mean, I think our farthest away maker is in Peoria. It's a chocolate maker.
I used to go to school there. I went to school there. Everything in the past is used to. So I went to school there at Bradley University in Peoria. So cool. I'm familiar with it.
Ephemeral chocolates, I think it's called.
Ephemeral?
Yeah.
Oh, I haven't heard of them. But I can go to the shop and
pick some up. Delicious. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Well, thank you so much for being on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it was fun. Thanks for having me.